We all want to bring home the bacon, to change the world, to make it rain. And with the theory of concussionism and thousands of tons of explosives, Robert George Dyrenforth reckoned that he could. But the real story? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
America. The 1890s.
Cool, got it.
The Great Plains.
Oh, yeah.
You know where the Great Plains are?
The flat bits.
Yeah, they're great. And they're very plain.
Like
it's a strip right
Kansas?
in the middle.
Kansas.
Yeah. I can give you the full. Kansas is one of them.
Missouri?
Nah.
Oh.
Both Dakotas, though.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas.
They were all of the ones I was going to guess.
You were getting to
after I got it wrong.
Yeah.
It was them. It was them next.
You're going to go through 40 odd.
I just got confused that Kansas City and Missouri City and Kansas, something like that.
No one knows what that means. That's a very confusing. But it's a strip that runs from Canada to the Gulf right down the middle of the country.
Okay, between the Rockies and Mississippi.
And not the Rockies.
Mississippi.
So homesteaders started settling there 1870s, 1880s. That was, it's been going on for a while.
Little House on the Prairie.
Yep. I don't know which prairie.
Other.
Yeah. There was also those guys in the wagon.
Little Women. Yeah.
So, 1870s, 1880s, they're starting to cruise. But now, in the 1890s, calls were going out. They wanted daring, adventurous settlers to come east. And they lured them with promises, like they being railway lords, land barons.
Bags of cash.
Yeah, no.
Free rabbits.
Promises.
All the hats you can eat.
Every hat you can eat. Or wear on knee pads.
Hats on your knee pads?
No, just knee pads. Very
chaps.
Popular.
That would be the promise that would get me out to the west.
Free chaps.
Get off the train station, free chaps as far as the eye could see.
But one condition, you can't wear pants under them. Only ever arseless chaps. So basically they were pitching it as a new Garden of Eden. This place is going to be the shit. So people were enticed by images basically of escape from the never-ending drudgery of labour in the big cities back east.
Oh, I get it.
Vast tracts of land, so fertile.
Factories, fertile land.
Not factories.
Yeah, you get the nice stuff.
Yeah. No, basically.
Sick of your desk job, you've been working from home way too long in the cities.
Be a farmer.
Come out west.
Here, if you throw the idea of food at the ground, it will grow. You're like, if you think cabbages, boom, cabbages.
I got to say, that is literally how I do my backyard gardening. I throw the idea of food at the ground.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, no, it does.
My idea of food doesn't come back.
You didn't say human food. Like, there's a lot of grass out there.
Okay.
You've done well with that.
I didn't throw that.
So they also dreamed, they're enticed by images of luxuriating in the invigorating thrill of an independent life.
Yeah, of course.
But also they could simultaneously, revitalize the nation's spirit. So it was all very frontiersy. Yeah, you're going to love this shit.
The definition of frontiers, like all of our ideas of frontiers come from that.
Actual frontiers. But you'll be amazed to hear, instead of finding basically a Garden of Eden, they were greeted with things like this. This is possibly my favourite straight up. Enormous hailstones described by one source the size of prairie dogs. The obvious comparison.
Okay, first, is a prairie dog roughly the size of a dog?
Well, it's the size of a hailstone.
I've got that.
No, I think they're more guinea pigs nailed together.
Big mouse. Big rat.
Very big rat mouse.
Small possum.
Yeah, small possum.
Small possum. Hailstones the size of small possums.
Yeah.
That is a big hailstone.
Not every storm.
No, I want it to be every
In
storm.
their defence.
I want it all the time. I want consistent hailstones 100% of the time.
It's going to hail. Put your suit of armour on. They also talk about blowtorch winds, sandstorms. I know. Hard water, dry rivers, blue northers.
A blue norther?
Blue norther is a fast-moving cold front marked by strong winds. They're kind of a dark black or blue sky and a really rapid drop in temperature, like 10 or 15 degrees centigrade in minutes. Also tornadoes.
They wouldn't have understood that though. They would have gone, it's Fahrenheit, so how could I possibly know what this weather is if it's in centigrade?
Well, I've grown as a person. The original source had it in Fahrenheit, and I
converted for me.
Hang on.
Give us both.
No, I don't remember the old one.
Kelvin, please, too.
Kelvin. Add 273.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
Got me.
That would be a science fact. Tornadoes. And, of course, drought.
Yeah.
Lots of drought. We're talking drought.
Yeah.
Unlike now. Mm-hmm. So the promises of huge swathes of fecund soil and effortless harvest turned out to be bullshit.
So advertising
Not always true.
Not always true.
Yeah, every
There you
now
go.
and then.
Listener, you can take that to the bank.
Not our advertising though. Ours, always true.
I stand by every product that I do or don't sell.
Yes. Oh, you stand by all the ones you don't sell.
I don't know about that.
So basically, it was particularly droughty in eastern New Mexico and northwestern Texas.
Cool.
So it was described in this area as a sprawling, bone-dry expanse of beige that could go months or even years at a time with little to no precipitation.
A sprawling, bone-dry expanse of beige. That is great,
isn't it?
I do want that applied to other things as well.
I've got pants that are like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some people's high school experience, a sprawling, bone-dry.
Expanses of beige. I've met people with personalities that could be described that way too.
They are too.
Yeah.
We love you anyway.
I don't love you because you're boring. So at best, the kind of rainfall we're talking, at best, an average of maybe 500 millimetres. Well, I think that's about 40 inches. So Sydney comparatively gets 1,200 or more a year. New York City, 1,000 plus.
Okay.
So at best.
At best less.
At best a lot less. But of course, this was a time when America was all about optimism and happiness and the conquest of land. Conquest of land. So conquest as a development concept did a lot of heavy lifting back then, like overtly as opposed to subversively.
Are we talking the taking of land?
That as well, but not only.
Not only. We're conquesting it from the indigenous inhabitants plus other.
Like they would conquer. Everything was about conquest, man's dominion over nature, like very, very strongly messaged and overtly messaged. But if you want to conquest agriculture, you need rain.
Of course.
Plenty of rain. So there are some very optimistic theories around rainfall in agriculture back then. So quite a number. For example, in the 1860s, there were geologists who believed the act of settlement itself would actually improve land, rain, etc. And there was a famous saying, rain follows the plough.
So they believe it.
Yeah.
Is there any logic?
Nope.
So people come and it will start raining.
No. You got to harvest first. So it's like faith harvest.
Okay. You just
plough shit up and then rain will want to fall.
Okay.
You know.
Is this God saying, okay, now that you've tended this land, now I'll give it some rain? Or is there something else going here that
geology?
You're allowing the moisture in the soil out?
No, you pull out, it's like little dirt and water magnets, but they're slightly below the surface. But with the plough, they come to the top and the water gets sucked to earth. Great. That's science.
Great.
There was another one. Another theory was electrical currents carried on railways or by telegraph wires would increase precipitation. Yeah, it does. Here comes a train. Fuck, it's going to rain. You know the drill.
Is this some sort of funding application? You know, put in the telegraph line or the railway line. You know, this is the added benefits.
Yep.
It will bring rain.
Yep.
I'm skeptical.
You should be.
Okay.
But there's also in the US. The idea that if you really wanted to conquer something, and as I say, this metaphor, this idea was very strong. If they all knew, especially the guys, in their gut, like in their waters, in their loins, there is no better way to conquer things than with great big explosions. So, it's no surprise at all the idea of concussionism was considered the perfect solution.
Welcome to The Wholesome Show, the podcast that will do literally anything to be blown open by the whole of science. The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant.
And not Will Grant, me, Rod Lamberts. So what's concussionism? And you can probably guess, but I'm going to walk you through the subtleties, the nuances, if you will. And I'll just say here, heaps of this comes from two articles. One from the Texas Monthly. I know you're a fan. And another, a very scholarly piece by Michael Whitaker, and it's quite, the name's quite long.
And that's not in the Texas Monthly?
No, this scholarly one was in a journal.
Which one?
I can't remember, but it's in the show notes.
Texas Biweekly.
By Texas Weekly, for all by Texans. So much juicy material. So concussionism began to get its claws into the minds of the US in 1871 because Edward Powers published a book called War and the Weather.
Yes.
War and the Weather. It wasn't so much a new theory of meteorology, etc., but it was more like a chronicle of Civil War accounts that documented.
Yes.
This rings a bell. What thousands of Union, Confederate soldiers of all ranks and abilities, all backgrounds, they came to believe after the Civil War. Basically, these soldiers, no matter where, most theatres of the Civil War, what they noticed was after a battle, they would experience drenching rain. This was a pattern.
Have a battle, get some rain.
Piss with rain.
Is it because of the trains and the telegraph?
Yes, because there's a lot of trains through battlefields. That's
they
how
must
they
have been
picked them.
harvesting something in the battle. And
People running with ploughs, dodging the artillery.
it's okay, a lot of people noticed this, sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that at the end of they fought until it rained or something like that. It's like, like it's getting a bit wet out. Let's go home and finish this tomorrow.
Wait a minute.
You know, often when I was a kid, it'd be after playing, it would rain. If you flip it around, it's your mother or your father saying, come in, it's raining.
So they made it rain.
They made it rain. I don't know.
It doesn't say here it's parents.
Civil War parents.
Civil War parents made it rain.
Come in.
But so, yeah, this connection became basically received wisdom. And so Power's book, War and the Weather, captured it all. Basically, the concussions of battle would bring rain. So the bottom line is lots of consistent big booms lead to rain. So if we aim huge explosions at the sky, we can make it rain whenever we want.
Yes. Aim them at the sky.
You're like, go boom, boom up there, get moisture down here.
Okay.
You know how it runs.
I do.
You're a meteorologist. So Powers had put this book together. He compiled all these stories and he decided it's time to get it tested. Let's try this shit out.
And we are fans of people that test things.
We love testing.
The Wholesome Show, this is all about people testing stuff.
So as an aside, kind of what you were saying, that he never mentioned, nor did he work out, that the battles were often fought in temperate places, which like Virginia, which rained every 4 days on average.
Sure.
And battles almost always started in good weather.
You would. You'd be more likely to start in good. You're not going to start while it's thunderstorming.
It's like, do you want to have a fight? Yeah, let's wait till it's shitting with rain.
Okay.
So whatever. Doesn't matter though. He didn't mention that, but no one gives a shit. He had a great idea. The idea had promise. It had some traction.
People
Let's
bought
test
the
this
book.
out.
He had a bestseller. Yes.
Yes.
It must have been.
New York Times bestseller.
Or not.
The first one.
It did all right.
The only reason it was a bestseller is because it's the only one on the list. They didn't know what books were.
It's talked about by podcasters today, though.
All over the world.
Yes.
In Canberra. So in the period between the first edition, 1871, and the second edition of War and Weather in 1890, he started haranguing politicians to pony up some cash. Let's test this shit.
Oh, yeah.
So a long period. But like 19 years, he was pushing this. And finally, he found a champion, a senator from Illinois called Charles Farwell. Mm-hmm. He was really into it. So he started to lobby his colleagues.
Okay.
So in 1890, as the second edition had come out, with a whole new generation of readers, 19 years
we've got to
after
put some
the first.
science. It was good theory. Now we're going to put some science in it.
Yep. And so people went, yeah, I'm into it. So basically, he was also helped by circumstances because everyone's pouring into the Great Plains and it's not raining. So Congress ponied up in the end about $9,000, two little tranches, but $9,000, which in the
today's money, that means
40 billion pesos.
You know, there's a website you can look that up.
Google it, mate. But so who's going to run the scheme? I mean, this is a great idea. It's got congressional money or Senate, whatever. It's got money.
So the government. Powers guy himself can't run it?
No.
Oh.
He's just a book guy.
Oh, he's got the ideas, but he needs an experimentalist.
Yeah,
so he's the theoretical physicist. Yeah. You got to get an experimentalist.
Well, also, you need it's government money, so you need a
team.
And a dude at the top. Dude, it's got to be a dude, obviously. 1890s America.
You'd be surprised.
So the government, they weren't really sure whose jurisdiction it should fall under. They're like, who runs this? What area?
What department of explosions in the air?
Yeah.
With weather.
It's like I've looked at the lists and I don't see one called that. Is this
the Department of Army or the Department of Weather?
Or Air?
Other.
Or maybe catapults?
Yeah.
The Department of Projectiles. So they didn't have one of those. But they finally went, okay, Division of Forestry. Inside the division, the Department of Agriculture.
Again, going to be my next guess.
It was. You could see it. It was on the tip of your tongue.
Because forestry, they're used to explosions in the air.
They are.
Making weather. No, fine. Good.
So the forestry chief said, nah.
Not us.
Because
zero experience of either explosions or up in the air or making it rain.
Yeah, I don't want to. He said, because we don't have the gear or the authority. So we don't have the boomsticks and we don't have the power.
I'm sorry, forestry chief, but it's a little bit unambitious.
Oh, no, this is the head of agriculture who said no.
Head of agriculture. It's, again, a little bit unambitious.
Oh, sorry, it was forestry.
Whatever.
One of them. But it seems more likely the reason he didn't want to do it because he thought it was fucking idiotic and he was embarrassed to attach his name to it.
Fair enough.
He's like, seriously, dudes, what are you talking about?
I'm sure Well, I think mostly wholesome show stories are all about the people that choose idiocy rather than avoiding idiocy.
And people,
It's nice to see someone taking the high path here.
we applaud you. You get the wholesome show secret handshake, which we can't do because we're videoing and no one's allowed to know. So he did an annual report to the Chief of Agriculture and said, look, any experiment like this, no, it's not going to work. So the operation was redelegated. It was like, get out of the way, mate.
Who to?
The Assistant Secretary of Agriculture. So not the Forestry, Assistant Secretary of the big department.
Okay.
A guy called Willits, Edwin Willits. But even Willits, even though he was more sympathetic, he was like, I don't think we're equipped to do this. So we can't do the experiments. What we need is an outsider with the knowledge, the chutzpah to get this thing rolling.
Enter a hero or a villain.
Literally, time to meet our hero.
There we go.
That is the next phrase I'd written down to remind myself, time to meet our hero.
Someone who's got the guts.
The gumption.
To go where no one else will go.
The I don't give a shitness.
Yeah. Try the dumb stuff.
Yep, so that we don't have to. General Robert G. Dyrenforth.
Dyrenforth?
Which I wrote and read every time as Dryenforth, but it is Dyrenforth. So at the time he enters the story, he was working as a patent lawyer in DC.
Okay. A general as a patent lawyer.
Well, now in 1890,
it's not the normal.
Not a usual path.
It's not the usual path to be a general and then go, you know what I want to do next?
Patent law.
Patent.
I want to sit in an office and appraise the legalities of this weird drawing that helps me
really not.
put hats away.
Like, I mean, I get going from doing army stuff to maybe
sort of army stuff.
Logistics, trains, swords, cannons.
I want to go in the sword business.
Or something like that, but not patents. It's weird. Patent law.
Patent lawyer. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. He was born in Chicago in Illinois, so years ago, 1844. But he, for some reason, was educated in Germany.
Okay.
He got an electrical engineering degree and he, at least according to one source, got a PhD from the University of Heidelberg. But it didn't say what in. I assume electrical engineering or similar.
Sociology.
Yep, sociology or women's studies.
Probably.
Because at that time, the gentlemen, particularly powerful ones, very sympathetic to the situation of women.
No doubt.
It's renowned, especially in Germany and America. He also went to law school at what was called the Columbian University, but it was actually ended up being George Washington. So George Washington University. Then he went into the army. That's a lot of things to do before you go to fight for the Union in the Civil War.
Yeah, but it's a civil war. Everyone gets called up.
Yeah, have a crack.
Like they're bringing in anyone who's got any experience. Electrical engineering, women's studies, anything like
legs.
That. Legs.
And ability to point.
All of them come in.
Yeah. But he also later on was involved in the, quote, Indian campaigns. So, good dude. But there were a lot of good dudes back then.
We've got the air quotes around the good dudes.
Very big
I get it was the time, but they all made some terrible decisions. So.
Not just decisions. I think the actions followed those decisions.
Well, no doubt.
Yeah. He also apparently was a war correspondent for the Chicago Post during the Austro-Prussian War.
Okay. I was going to say war correspondent and being the general in the war.
Shoot with one hand, right with the other.
Well, I think it's a bit of a conflict of interest.
Little.
Because if you're the general in the war, it's like, my God, we are doing so well.
Killing it.
Look at those losers on the other side.
Killing it.
We have destroyed all of them very well.
Yeah. I like
different job.
Conflict of interest in a conflict.
Yes.
Whoa. So he was described as a flamboyant character.
Yes.
Tall.
Again.
Well-proportioned. A vigorous man with strikingly strong face. Well, like us. I'm basically describing the two of us. He had the face of a thinker, of a diplomat, of a man of the world.
We don't describe people's faces enough.
We should.
In fact, they've moved a long way from describing appearance in general, but probably for good reasons. But this is fun.
He was also described as broad-shouldered, capable, extravagantly optimistic.
That is my bio. Oh my God, that
extravagantly
is
optimistic.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt. That is great.
The only word I know is yes. This is my vocabulary.
I don't know how to say no.
I can say it in 900 languages. I've made up ways to say yes.
That is great.
He was also relentlessly self-promoting. He saw vast possibilities where others didn't.
Yes.
He asserted that man's dominion over the continent could be extended to the heavens and to the four winds.
Oh, all the way up to the heavens.
All the way to the heavens. He was also, this is a later description, but you just can't let this one go, especially in this podcast, a man, there's a quote, untrammeled by such petty constraints as the scientific method.
Yeah.
Which makes me happy.
Petty constraints.
Yeah. I think there might have been a bit of the sarcasms. He also had a familiarity with explosives and didn't mind a bit of meteorology.
Well, I'm feeling the Venn diagram coming together.
I don't see it.
For concussionism right here.
Yeah.
You need someone flamboyantly optimistic.
Yeah. Self-promoting,
Yeah.
like boom, boom, like trickle, trickle.
He's the man for the job.
Yeah, he's a poster boy. Absolute poster boy for this. So in February 1891, he was made an ad hoc special agent.
That's just like you got the deputy sticker on your shirt.
At best.
Like
I know. This is the
walked
acting
around
assistant
like-
deputy. This is pro tem.
I need an intern, ad hoc deputy.
Yeah. So that was his name. He spent the next 5 months putting together a team, collecting gear, finding a test site.
Cool.
Which is great. You know, it's good science. He chose a ranch, the C Ranch, like the letter C. This is the C Ranch, near a town called Midland in Texas. But also this ranch was donated basically. It was owned by a successful Chicago meat packer who said, "Oh, you can use my place."
I've packed too much meat.
Yep.
I no longer need my ranch.
Yeah.
I'm so successful at packing meat.
I want you to blow up the sky from my ranch. And also for Dyrenforth, success there because it was such a particularly dry place, indisputable.
Oh, yeah.
If it worked, there's no chance it wasn't us.
You got a
baseline. The meat packer also gave them complimentary room and board. He would underwrite some labour
Well,
costs.
sure, he's just saying, I'm leaving you my ranch. I'm not going to, you can have the house as well.
Yep.
So.
Oh, no, he also apparently underwrote some miscellaneous expenses.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they didn't say what they were.
Oh.
But also like
that's where you
local
put the fun
businesses were
things
into it too.
in your budget.
MISC, under MISC.
Yeah.
That's why 90% of our budget is MISC and the other 10% is other. So they were all there ready to rock. Like, local businesses chimed in as well and threw in a bit of money here. You know, you can have a free pair of canvas pants. You get an eye patch. I don't know what
I don't know.
in.
I don't know if that's normal in science if you just pass the hat around the local area where you're doing your experiment.
I think they wanted to. I think they heard about it and went, we'll chuck some cash into that. I don't think they asked. This is growth. This is progress. This is man's dominion over all the things.
No, look, I like the idea of doing an experiment and the local town gets so behind your experiment that they're chucking in all of their wares.
Well, it's the kind of citizen science we like, where the citizens stay the fuck out of the way but hand us cash.
Or trinkets or whatever.
Just baubles.
Yeah, whatever that can help with.
Some little things to make your pants shiny. So early in August 1891, they went down to the C Ranch, he and his crew. The crew was an impressive mob. He decided, oversized kites, which carried racker rock, which is a particular kind of charge, potassium chlorate nitrobenzene, if you're wondering, often used in mining.
Okay.
I think even now. But so the oversized kites, racker rock charges, and hydrogen-oxygen balloons.
So what's the racker rock?
It's like an explosive that you put in canisters.
Okay.
So also balloons full of hydrogen oxygen because they'd go high enough and make big concussive booms.
Up there.
Yep.
Okay.
Which I discovered firsthand.
So he's testing how high you'll need the explosion to get the rain.
Yeah, he was quite meticulous in that. Up. Upper. More up. Boom. So of course, if you're using this gear, you need the team who are appropriate. So he brought a balloonist.
Nice.
Obviously.
A kitist?
3 kitists. No kitists. I think that
he had a kite.
Yeah, I think maybe he worked it out.
Are you just going to get the local villagers to fly the kite?
Probably.
I want, particularly if it's a kite with a bomb on it, I want someone that knows what they're doing. Get some kids in here.
Kids love kites.
I know they do. That's the problem. You need an expert doing this.
I don't know if his ad on Craigslist for expert kitist received many responses. That might be the problem.
Kiter.
Kiterophiler.
Kiterologist.
Oh. Yeah, I like that. Kiterologist. He also brought 2 chemists along because you had to field produce hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah, okay.
To get floaty and boomy. Yep. He brought 2 guests of honour because
the mayor.
No, an ex-Confederate general.
Okay.
Who had patented a method of artificial rainmaking involving balloons with attached dynamite charges.
So he got a patent for it.
Yeah, that's probably how he found it.
Don't you have to be actually successful in your invention to get a patent?
I don't know.
So you can patent something that doesn't work?
Yeah, I've patented a perpetual motion machine.
No, I don't think you have.
It's got a picture.
I say no.
I think you probably call it a map though.
No, I wouldn't.
So he came along. Well, because also there is some suspicion that Dyrenforth got onto this because he saw some patents being applied for that made him go,
Oh, okay.
this is pretty sweet.
This is where I can do my thing.
Yeah, let's blow some
My
people up.
flamboyance lies here.
Yeah. So the ex-Confederate general was one of the honoured guests. The other was Edward Powers, the man who wrote the book.
Okay, so it's
War and Weather.
two people that are thinking in the same sort of way.
Yeah.
So the other guy's doing roughly the same sort of thing, and Powers is the genius behind it all.
Yeah. And then he brought someone who was not thinking in the same kind of way.
Who?
A guy called George Curtis, who was with the Smithsonian Institution. He was a meteorologist, and he was deeply skeptical about the whole foundation of the idea.
Party pooper.
Yep.
They brought a party pooper.
Boring George Curtis.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. I reckon actually you bring along the naysayers so you can go, even this old boring fart
All right.
had to say yes.
All right.
That's my guess. I don't know if that's
His
true.
peer review.
Yes, exactly. Except I don't know if George considered himself a peer to Dyrenforth or vice versa.
Either way.
Yeah.
He's doing the review.
Yeah. So August 9, so they got there in early August. August 9, it began. They unleashed, this is the quote, unleashing their fearsome barrages against the atmosphere, inflating and exploding several dozen oxy-hydrogen balloons and detonating thousands of pounds of explosives over the course of the next few weeks. Thousands of pounds of explosives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they didn't fuck around. They're like, if we're going to do this, because remember, you're simulating a battle, not like going ping.
Yeah,
You're
lots of artillery.
In
and
a
all
battle, let's really go for it. So, but apparently also he was really keen on the whole military simulation thing. So he set up like basically 3 lines that looked like artillery batteries.
Because that was it. It was the shape of your battle that brought the rain.
Yeah.
Put some little soldiers out there as well. Right, everyone?
Almost, but not actually. Yeah. He set up, 3 lines, 2 miles long.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is a shit ton of stuff. Like this isn't just throw a few sticks in the air and run out of the way before they land and blow up on you. So the front line was a row of jury-rigged mortars, and they were set to lob dynamite and rack-a-rock into the sky. So just go, boom, and hope it worked.
Okay, can I just pause for a second? Because you know me, I like to think even if this works, how much expense are we talking to get your drop of rain? Like I feel like if a farmer has to set up 3 lines, one of mortars, and you're going to tell me what the other 2 are in a second.
Oh yeah.
And it works. It gets you a nice, good old thunderstorm.
Yes.
I think that the farming is still not quite sustainable.
Well, look, you wouldn't do it just for one farm. By doing that, you probably get at least 3 farms wet.
Probably.
Maybe more.
You could pass the hat around the local village. You can say, let's get it together.
We need more dynamite. Why? Because of the drought.
And buy 700 tons of dynamite.
Yeah. So yeah, these were basically mortars that went poof, pop. Second line, a line of custom-built kites with dynamite charges. They were, accounts vary, they were either tethered by electrical cable so you could send a detonation signal or sticks of dynamite with just long fuses, which I love. Get out of the way and hope you've timed it right. So that was the second line. Third line, the main line. So these weren't the main lines.
These were just the warm-up because the atmosphere needed to be softened
tickled,
like a battle. You're going to tickle them and then
like
get to the real big stuff.
You don't eat it straight out of the fridge. You blow up a few things near it first. So it was 12-foot balloons, like 12-foot.
Round?
I think it was round. It didn't
Cross?
say. Yeah, it didn't say with diameter or radius or whatever. They were filled with oxygen and hydrogen, and the gas, they were supposed to go hundreds of feet into the air to be again exploded by electrical charges, so tethered to wires on the ground. He also went further with a military look because one source says, even in the superficial and intangible details, Dyrenforth adopted a military model. He was wearing a pith helmet and cavalry boots through the whole thing.
Yes, but if you get the opportunity,
do it.
Pith helmet and cavalry boots. I know they've got a bad look now.
Not fabulous. I'd be wearing them now if I had them. If I had either. If I had one cavalry boot, I'd wear it.
Why have you not bought them then? Buy yourself a pith helmet.
Do you know, it's partially because the bank accounts aren't only mine anymore.
Oh my God.
It's like, what's this $900?
Why have you bought
cavalry boots?
Why have you bought 70 pith helmets?
I don't know.
Do they come in your size?
One must. There must be one. So, but also a lot of his party liked to look that way too. So many had pith helmets. And there's a great photo I'll show you here where not only many of them have pith helmets, but a bunch of them are holding shotguns too. So, I suppose in case the weather doesn't work, you go hand to hand with it and start
Jesus
shooting.
Christ. Look, I mean, this is just literally
Dyrenforth's 5th from the left.
19th century
sitting down.
Guys doing dumb stuff,
Yep.
dressed up like idiots.
Yep.
Like this is what they did.
That's the summary. But I love they're holding shotguns. It's like, fuck it, the dynamite didn't work. Gentlemen, open fire.
In case some bears attack.
Yep, there are a lot of bears there.
Bears might be scared out or in by all the explosions, so you got to have your shotgun ready.
That's true. The bears think, meat ranch. Meat packer owns it. There's an explosion. It's going to be meat. So the experiment they were front page news all around the country. It just went off. Everyone was just into this shit. So after a few initial rack-a-rock charges went off on the Monday the 10th, they telegraphed the Senator, Farwell. It just went preliminary. Fired some explosives yesterday, raining hard today. Newspaper editors.
So hang on.
Yeah.
Worked.
Yeah. That's what he said. Newspaper editors were convinced it was working too. They was like, he's onto something here. So by the 13th, so a few days later, the Thursday of the week, papers coast to coast were saying, this guy rocks. This is working.
That's awesome.
This shit is on. He's the savior of national agriculture.
I mean, I know that there's going to be a twist here that says maybe it didn't.
No, this is one of the good ones. Last time I told you that it was. So why wouldn't this be the case too? So we got some choice headlines. Rocky Mountain News in Denver just said they made rain. Chicago Times said the visionary Farwell, the senator, had outdone Moses. It's fucking great.
Outdone Moses.
Outdone Moses.
That's a little bit sacrilegious, but it's nice.
That's just a compliment. It's just a compliment. Washington Post went off. So they had a heading, bombs cause rain to fall, but they continued with one of my favorite sentences ever written about stuff in this context. The program is elaborate, the material abundant, and the science involved exhaustive.
Oh, okay. Declared, it's done.
If WAPO says it. New York Sun even wrote a bit of poetry.
you know, but this is the thing I love. Like anytime we drill into someone weird in the 19th century, they put some poems.
We need a poem.
We put some poems.
We need a poem.
This will make it better, more grandiose.
Well, this is a really good one. It's not very long. Are you ready?
No, I'm not.
I am cloud compelling Dyrenforth, a mighty able wight.
Did you have to?
Well, you have to because it's a poem. It's got a rhyme. So it goes on.
A mighty able wight.
White. As in GHT, because they're not racist, not white man, white as in, cave white or some kind of creature.
No.
Yeah.
No.
WIGHT.
Okay. It doesn't really make sense. It actually made more sense. I know it's a poem, but...
it's going to make sense because here's the second line.
It made more sense when it was just racist.
I can call the clouds together with a load of dynamite.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is basically a drinking song, really. That's not a poem.
It's not.
So, well done, New York Sun. So 2 days after the first test, it was also reported in the town of Van Horn in Texas that they'd experienced the heaviest rain in years, and they said Dyrenforth did it.
Jesus.
What they didn't mention was Van Horn is 180 miles away from the test site.
No, but that's how it works.
That's exactly how it works.
Exactly.
It blows the rain. The explosions
any rain that happened in America in the day after.
It was them.
It's because of them.
No question. They also didn't mention that August was the beginning of the rainy season in that area anyway.
Weird.
It didn't come up.
No, it's weird.
Also, that fewer than half of the barrages made any appreciable rain volume at all.
Well, okay.
And that in one of the instances, the Weather Bureau had already predicted rain.
Yeah.
But so what?
Circumstantial.
So what?
Circumstantial.
Yeah, exactly.
He did it.
You freaking negative Nancys.
Yeah.
We're not interested in that. So the team kept going and they sent out this steady stream of the equivalent of press releases. One described it as panting press releases about the immense explosions and the rain they caused. Like panting press release. I've never seen anything so. So next experiment, August the 18th. So it was the 9th, now the 18th. They reported that after firing their ground batteries for 12 hours. I mean, you want to simulate a battle, 12 hours of just chucking huge booms into the air.
You know, the other thing, I just thinking back about these poor farmers that might have to do this is that, the stories you hear about farmers is they're up at dawn and they're doing the things.
Yeah.
I got to milk the cows, I got to milk the fences, I got to
milk myself. We got to get going.
Everything's got to be milked. Then I got to do all this other stuff. Ah. But if you're adding in 12 hours worth of explosions per, how often do we have to do this?
For some reason, I'm very tired this evening.
It's all this milking I've been doing.
So, 12 hours, and they exploded, quote, large quantities of oxyhydrogen gas in 10-foot diameter balloons, and rain fell in torrents for about 2.5 hours. That was August 18. August 25, more ground fire, detonations, balloon explosions. They said 7 more inches of rain fell during the night. So it's all going
beautifully,
swimmingly.
Beautifully.
Yeah. So he's reporting, or the whole team's reporting.
Maybe not practical, but still he's got an effect here.
Excellent. It's excellent.
Maybe.
So he and his team are reporting on all his successes all over the place. The press love him. So the next obvious step, get back to Washington, capitalize on the victories over the weather, get some more cash.
Yes.
Go bigger.
Victories over the weather. Yeah.
Conquest, man.
I get it.
That's how you win.
Yeah.
America wins at the time by conquest. So when he got back to Washington, he berated his doubters and saying, fuck you, we made it rain like 12 times or more. And he wrote a piece in the North American Review.
Poem?
No, this is actually other words, kind of poetic in a weird way. The title was imaginatively called "Can We Make It Rain?"
Yes.
That was what it says on the tin.
Answer, yes.
Yeah, definitely. And his language, though, there's only one snippet that really caught my eye. In one piece, he was trying to explain what was going on. So he says, after each explosion, the subsequent inrush of columns of air will perhaps by the motion of the earth on its axis not be just end to end or point against point, but the columns passing each other, a whirl or wall will be started which, widening as it extends upwards, will present a vortex whereby heavy or moisture-laden air will be drawn from afar.
That is, he's using the baffle.
He's using the words.
To make people think, okay, he knows what he's talking about.
Turbo-infabulator and cabulator.
100%.
So fairly science-ish.
But some vortexes, and the vortexes rub against each other.
And then the axis of the earth moves a bit.
And then water comes down.
And that helps.
Yeah.
Because you've got to rely on the earth moving. That's just.
Well, you can't stop it. You can't say you need the
true.
earth to stop for a bit and then rain.
Hold your fist up and shriek.
It's not going to work.
So did it work? Did Congress put their hands back in their pockets? So Dyrenforth's entreaties to Congress were, I describe them as beefy and enthusiastic.
You described
That's my description.
Okay.
I summarised for you.
I'm not taking it unless 19th century people call it beefy. Then I can't.
The French
called
called it buffet and enthusiastique. So he also included in these reports and pleads or persuasive communications a whole bunch of testimonial letters from esteemed Civil War veterans. Obviously, that's what you do.
Are they telling the story about after our battle rained?
No, just this guy's the shit and it works.
Okay. Did they have any evidence other than his evidence?
Freak.
All right.
So one of them was a guy who's the governor of Maine, and he was decorated with a Medal of Honor during the war. He was made a general and blah, blah, blah. Another guy, Illinois representative of Civil War generals, a guy called John McNulty.
A general of generals? Representative of generals?
Yeah.
We choose you to be our most...
Illinois representative and
okay.
conjunctions.
He's a representative and a general.
Yeah,
right.
who cares about conjunctions? Also former president and also former major general in the Union Army, James A. Garfield.
Hey.
So he wrote testimonials. There are also 6 pages of other testimonials from local eyewitnesses who had wandered by to observe the proceedings.
This sounds pretty strong.
You seem interested. Can you write us a little, this shit rocks?
A new listener, if you want to write a testimonial for us, you too can do that.
Jump onto Apple Podcasts because, they like us.
Or the one that you listen to.
Or your own. But what about the science in these reports, in these entreaties for money?
All right. We'll put my guessing game on.
Yep.
It's all perfect.
Yep.
And we use it today.
Yep.
And there are no downsides.
Yep. And it definitely existed. There was definitely science in there.
All right. Got it all.
So he covered it like this. One of the main lobbying documents, he said, although he'd received a number of suggested theories as to the mechanisms of concussive pluviculture, artificial rainmaking.
Fancy word.
He was unable to understand many of them. So they exist, but I don't know what they mean.
Okay.
Well,
You've used all the vortex whirls.
Yeah. I made up my own. I made up my own.
Other dimensions.
Also, some other things didn't appear in the lobbying documents.
Like?
Well, much of what he had told everyone and what the newspapers had reported was bullshit.
Which bit?
There was definitely explosions and stuff.
Okay, you did that?
The rain part.
They got the ranch?
Not so much.
They just made it up.
Well, perspectives, points of view.
I heard torrents. You said there were torrents.
I didn't. I reported that it was said there were torrents. Shooting the messenger. I thought you'd learnt by now. I'm an innocent. I'm just here. So the big city newspapers none of them sent reporters, so they just relied on the self-reports and media releases.
Christ.
Not a one checked it out themselves. They just went, fuck yeah, this works.
Yes.
He said it did. He's a general. He blows shit up.
And yet?
But 2 agricultural trade papers did send reporters. These are the 2. You probably know them already. Farm Implement News.
I like that one.
Love that one.
I like that one. That's where, I like my implements. And
Especially farm ones.
especially the farm ones. That's
Yeah.
where I get all of the latest goss.
True. And look, I never buy a tractor unless it's reviewed positively in Farm Implement News.
Or a hoe.
She could review it too. You're welcome. Texas Farm and Ranch was the other one.
Yeah,
You know, the other one, the second tier.
yeah,
But
it's
still,
not as much fun.
no one cares. Because that could be about anything.
Oh, your farm implement news all around the world.
You know what it means. Texas
The
Farm and Ranch
stump jump
could
plow?
just be photos. So they sent reporters. And what they reported contradicted pretty much everything the team was saying in the big race. The big papers were reporting.
You know, normally the sorts of stories that we do, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, something happened, but it wasn't, you know, something else was going on.
Yeah.
Didn't happen in the way that we thought, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But
Yeah.
just lying the whole time.
Were they lying or did they just see what they wanted to see?
Okay, tell me.
So the ag reporter said when they got to the C Ranch, they found, I love this.
Deluges of water, torrents of rivers, crops just bursting forth.
You've clearly read the articles. They found a group of inept scientific novices who,
Oh, that's these guys. Yep.
battling severe cases of diarrhea brought on by drinking alkaline well water.
Look, we've all battled our severe cases.
Haven't we?
And it doesn't need to go in the newspaper.
No.
Like, I think that's unfair.
No, but the trade papers.
You can still do very good science
While shitting yourself.
whilst battling severe cases of diarrhea.
Some of my best research has been done on the toilet.
No doubt. And one day, listener, we might just do a story of all of the scientists who have battled severe cases of diarrhea to bring you the
Toilet
news.
research. Yeah. So they were also watched helplessly as their balloons caught fire or were blown miles away by high winds. Their homemade mortars self-destructed. Their hydrogen generators became engulfed in flames and their kites wouldn't fly.
Oh, jeez.
So that's cool. And remember the Smithsonian meteorology guy, George Curtis?
I do. I was going to ask about him.
His summary was there was inappreciable precipitation. So, for example, August 18, the middle one, Dyrenforth claimed to have produced a torrential downpour. Curtis recorded 0.02 of an inch of water, which is about, 3 nanometers.
It is not a lot.
It's fecal. So that's not a lot. He also said the rain Dyrenforth had reported on August 26th did fall,
Okay. So
but
it
it
was
had
right.
already been predicted by the Weather Bureau.
Yeah.
It's coming anyway. Dyrenforth didn't give a shit about that. So while he continued to lobby in Washington, his team stayed in Texas and ran 2 more attempts.
And this is where the good ones were.
Yes.
No?
So one was the mayor of El Paso said, "Can you come and make some rain, please?"
Yeah, we
And
need
they
it down
said,
here.
For sure. So the quote was basically, after lots of firing, nothing. So they reported to Congress. It was ascertained that soon after midnight, rain had begun to fall within a few miles of El Paso. So what was very common here is they'd go, rain fell, just not where we did the boom booms.
Ah, look.
But it's got to be connected.
Yeah, it's obviously.
Come on. We
It's
went
a
boom,
nearby thing.
rain fell.
Yeah, no. There's
Yeah.
secret vortexes.
Yep.
There's like a wormhole and it goes through there and
Yep.
pops up somewhere else.
Yep.
So that's all that's going on.
That's how rain and
Yeah,
explosions work.
we just need to do more science and then work out how it's happening. So,
yes.
you know, all of these booms, obviously, that's the monsoon in India.
Yep.
If you did it in Texas, that's the problem. We just got to put the bombs somewhere else.
Stop blowing so much shit up. We're drowning here.
Put some bombs and sort of chase the rain from India.
Oh, you blow it
all
in
way-
the direction.
You keep
Yeah.
blowing it up until it gets to where you want it.
I like that.
We could do that.
We'll do it next time. The second one of these 2 tests while he was in Washington, Corpus Christi and in the small town of San Diego, not the one you know, in South Texas. There were inconclusive firings because of wet weather. And they set off, the quote was, truly enormous amounts of ordnance. As soon as you hear that, you go, yes. How much? 800 charges of dynamite.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
1,500 pounds of Raka rock, 7,000 cubic feet of oxyhydrogen gas.
So I know that there are stereotypes of idiot men.
Yeah.
But my God, they are really taking the biscuit of just a bunch of guys doing dumb stuff.
Oh. Yeah. They reported rain was falling in torrents by 4 a.m. It wasn't. So early 1892, so the following year, Dyrenforth had lobbied the shit out of people, given them lots of reports, claimed huge success with his preliminary results, and they said, great, here's 10 grand.
Okay.
Keep going. But criticisms were starting to grow. So political cartoons basically said he's a charlatan. The Smithsonian guy,
Political cartoons are
that's their job.
That's their job, but they're also on the money about frauds, often really quite early, and they can see, okay, this is ridiculous. Who is not going to
drop out from clown college?
Political cartoon would love this.
Yeah, and they did. Curtis, the meteorologist, said he'd long since returned to Washington in disgust, and he wrote a deeply critical article and said things, basically apparently blistering tirades, calling the experiment a miserable farce, its commanding general an inexcusable bungler, his botch work a burlesque on science and common sense. New York Tribune mocked him, and they said, look, since explosions create rain, would not string orchestras sent aloft in balloons soothe the clouds to stop severe storms? The reverse. You cuddle them.
Maybe.
Non-concussive.
Okay.
They were taking the piss, bro.
I know, I get it, okay.
Criticism gets wider and louder. So by the end of August, he was being called, it was absurd, shameless misrepresentation, utter ridiculous failure, etc. It just got worse and worse and worse. And a professor, Alexander McFarlane, who was a bit like Curtis, he was an eyewitness to things, and he hammered out, they called it a fulminating critique of the inaugural issue of the Texas Academy of Sciences. It was peppered with phrases and terms like, no better than the medicine man or the Indians.
Did you have to? Did you have to go there?
He did. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Useless, imposter, ignorance, and so-called facts and cranky arguments.
So those bits were all fine.
That was fine.
That's all fine. Didn't have to go racist.
Got to get some racism.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Got to. Otherwise, it's not journalism. Dyrenforth did not give a fuck. He was completely undeterred. So in November of 92, he keeps going.
Yes.
Because he's still got the 10 grand, remember?
Yes. Okay. But he must know this isn't working. Surely?
I'm not convinced that he does know for sure.
Is he thinking this is working? Is he like, torrents everywhere?
Relentlessly optimistic, mega self-promoter.
And it's 1/200th of an inch and he's calling it a torrent. There's got to be something wrong with his eyes at this point.
So November 1892, he goes to San Antonio, and apparently he was met by a huge crowd. He had 40 tons of explosives with him. So he chose to test a test place near a hotel a few miles out of the downtown area of San Antonio. So in test one, he puts a shit ton of explosives called rosalite.
Hang on, this is downtown?
Yeah, 4 miles south. He's not an idiot. Near a hotel.
It's still, you're in a town as opposed to in a ranch in the middle of nowhere.
It's test firing. 500 feet from the hotel, there's a mesquite tree. He puts this rosalite explosive in there. The quote is, when it went off, it both obliterated the tree and broke every window in the hotel. And you're like, yes, it would.
You blew up a tree.
Yeah.
Previously, we were doing balloons in the atmosphere. Yeah. You're getting a bit lazy with your...
I don't know why he needed to. I don't know why he did. So the San Antonio Daily Express said that his mortar shells either exploded within the guns or nearby on the ground, failing miserably to attain their objective in the skies. This is when he went on with it. But he kept on for 4 days. And he was just trying again with no success, and apparently an ungrateful public jeered the dauntless General Dyrenforth the whole time. So the Washington Post, who were fans, also got mad.
Yeah, but who wouldn't go? If you're in
go.
town, go and watch this idiot blow some stuff up and fail. Like that is so.
Or succeed. Who cares? There's explosions.
Exactly. If he succeeds, then cool. All luck to him. But
boring, destructive fireworks.
I'm going along.
Yeah, ditto. Oh, I'm there for all of it. There's no question. I'll be there going, yes. Pith helmet in hand, shotgun under the arm. So the Washington Post now basically kicked it in, said the whole hullabaloo did not lead to any more water than would furnish a canary bird with its morning bath. The Chicago Times said the money would have been less ridiculously employed if it were devoted to the manufacture of whistles out of pigs' tails. Okay. That old insult.
Okay.
So basically the government went, we're in the shits with you, you're out, and give us back, there's $5,000 unspent, give it back.
But that would have been the good test.
Yeah.
Just one more test and we would have found
one more. I've still got $5,000.
Hone it.
I love all that. Only used half of his budget. It's fantastic. So then the Department of Agriculture did not renew his appointment as a special agent.
Oh.
And even Edward Powers, the father of the theory, distanced himself from the general and said, the experiments were shoddily executed.
My theories were good.
You just did them wrong.
But you did them wrong.
Yeah, you tested them wrong, you dickhead. So he wasn't happy either. So basically, Dyrenforth's concussion fame lasted about 15 months. It was all going beautifully for him. And during the good times, he got the nickname General Jupiter Pluvius.
Stop it.
Yeah.
He wrote that nickname himself.
Look, he probably did.
Everyone calls me General Jupiter Pluvius.
I mean, obviously.
You clown.
Name?
No one,
Jupiter Pluvius.
like, you're not at a party and you go, oh, we need a nickname for the guy over there, and goes, oh, well, that's obviously General Jupiter Pluvius. It's ridiculous.
Let's make it long and ungainly too. Not Nev or Boom Boom. General Jupiter Pluvius. He was apparently in the press, referred to this way. But by 1893, his new nickname became, very cleverly, Dry Henceforth.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, boom, snap.
That's very 19th century. They liked
Slapped
they
it down.
liked the word henceforth back then.
I don't mind it now.
No, but they liked it more.
You
They
like it?
loved it back then.
You like a henceforth?
Dry henceforth. It works.
Also, his reputation may not have been enhanced by the fact that he didn't always represent himself entirely accurately.
No?
First up, he wasn't a general. He left the army as a major, and one source suggested maybe he'd been encouraged to leave. One source.
So, okay. So this makes the patent lawyer thing a little bit more plausible.
It makes a bit more sense. Despite all the authoritative science-ish proclamations, he had zero training in meteorology, and maybe he read some newspaper stuff or something. Also, he didn't know much about explosives either.
No, he seems to be doing them all right. I mean, not perfectly. He's letting them off.
Mortars blowing up in the tube, not great.
Okay, yeah,
not
fair
great.
enough. Trees blowing up. Yeah.
But in his defense, he was a patent attorney.
Okay.
So, not terrible. So basically, he was defeated. The weather beat him. And the US government in 19th century said, okay, rainmaking's over. We're not going to do that anymore. But concussionism didn't die yet. Basically, private investors got in. So my favourite, there's a few, but I'll just give you one. The cereal manufacturer, C.W. Post.
But you mean cereal, like your cornflakes or Weetabix or something?
Yeah. Not like he was a cereal manufacturer. He manufactured a lot. It was cereal that you eat.
Okay.
So he was apparently a bit of a tycoon from Texas. He believed concussionism was cool. So from 1911 to 14, he spent $50,000 to conduct a series of rain battles. And he detonated dynamite a hole along an escarpment in a town named after him, I assume, Post City. Every now and then there was a bit of rain. So he basically predicted that rainmaking would one day replace irrigation.
What a place to live. What a place to live.
And he died in 1914, convinced he could shoot up rain whenever he wanted to, but he couldn't. And basically the French in World War I did some experiments and they proved it doesn't work. Finally, the French went, let's test this out. This is bullshit.
Well, look, I would say that the other experiments proved it didn't work as well. They just choose not to read the evidence.
I think they actually wrote it up and stuff and said, here's what actually happened. So basically, Dyrenforth fades into obscurity the end of his life as a patent attorney in DC. But he did make the headlines one last time.
What did he do?
Just after his death in 1910. Had nothing to do with concussionism. It was because of the unique stipulations of his will, which is how I actually found this guy in the first place.
Yeah, okay.
So the TLDR version, he had married a woman called Jenny DeLacy in 1866. They had 4 kids. His daughter had a son, one of his daughters, Robert, Robert Jr.
So he's a grandson.
Yep, grandson. Her husband died 12 months after the birth, and then she died a year after that. So the kid's an orphan within 2 years.
Yeah.
In the background, Dyrenforth and Jenny were having a crappy relationship, and she unusually managed to leave him.
Oh, yeah.
And she got some kind of alimony, apparently quite unusual. Mm-hmm. And so she ended up basically taking the grandson and adopting, or not quite adopting, but the grandson was living with her.
Okay.
Dyrenforth then abducted the grandson.
Jesus. Okay.
Because he wanted him.
Yeah.
And was later, for some reason, allowed to adopt him formally.
Okay.
I don't get why. And then the year before his death, so 1909, he wrote his will, and it was very specific. So he was, at this point, really pissed off with not only his wife, but women. Didn't like women.
I mean, what a surprise.
I know, shocked. So Robert Jr. was 11 at the time. He would be able to inherit Dyrenforth's entire estate, but not until he was 28.
That's the number you pick.
Of course it is. His Dyrenforth's brothers were the executors and trustees. And he said things like this: I particularly request my executors thoughtfully and well guard my beloved son from women, and sensibly, that is, quietly, gradually, and impressively, though to no erratic extreme, to let him be informed and know the indirect, artful, and parasitical nature of most of the unfortunate sex, and to care that he may not marry beneath him. So his feelings were very hurt. He also said that the son should not come under the influence or affiliate with one Jenny Dyrenforth or her daughter.
Oh.
Which I assume is probably his daughter too, but I don't know. Maybe she had kids with someone else.
Possibly.
Should Robert Jr. be subject or exposed to the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church or become a Catholic, I hereby direct that each and every bequest herein shall become null and void.
Oh, thanks, man.
And everything shall pass entirely to the Scottish rite of Freemasonry.
Okay, fair enough.
This guy really had it going on. He then added an addendum, instructions as to the education of Robert St. George Dyrenforth.
Yeah.
He had to go to public schools. From the age of 12, he had to go to a European country every long school vacation.
Hey, that's not bad.
And become proficient in the language of the country.
I would like that stipulated for me.
He told them the order he should do it.
I'm sorry, everyone. I got to go on my European holiday that is forced by my grandpappy.
I've got to go and learn Albanian now.
Yeah.
So he told them the order. It should be France, Spain, Italy.
Not alphabetical?
Greece, no. Germany, Denmark, and then Russia. So
none of the small ones.
No, none of the small ones. And that's many years. I don't know. I don't think his maths was great because he had to have instructions in athletics and dancing and become reasonably accomplished at both the violin and the piano. All of this so you don't get the money.
Jesus Christ.
All of this or no money.
Why don't you just, be a decent parent?
Nope.
No.
He had to graduate high school at 14. Then he had to go to Harvard. But he could only spend 6 months as a freshman, so he could graduate before he was 18.
Jesus Christ.
Had to graduate before 18. Immediately after Harvard, he was supposed to go to Oxford and do law before he turned 18.
Sure. Okay, buddy.
Yeah. And then at 18, he had to go to West Point, serve in the army, and then become a practicing lawyer.
Jesus.
So that's why that made the headlines. Did the will happen? No. Because the brothers just said no. So his wife got everything anyway. And it turned out he bullshitted about how much money and how big his estate was. He was deeply in debt. I think about 80% of it got chewed up by debts. And ultimately, Jenny got legal guardianship and none of her in-laws or other people complained. So just to end off, though, we can't leave rainmaking without just a quick look at where it went. So today-ish, like in the early 60s, the US had a Bureau of Reclamation and they did a bunch of cloud seeding experiments. Mm-hmm. So they used, silver iodide. And that kind of attracts water and it makes clouds heavier and they drop
Operation Popeye.
No, that comes in a moment. Because Operation Popeye was when the military came back in and they wanted to use weather modification as a weapon. So you've heard of this, to disrupt the enemy in Vietnam.
That was the one I told you.
Oh, you did? That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
So this is why I was looking. Did he tell me this? And so for the people who haven't heard that episode yet, but you should look it up, there was an international treaty in 1977 that banned the use of weather modification for military purposes.
Losers.
Why bother?
Losers.
Why bother?
Losers.
But the interesting thing with this, so the common thread running through it is many of the experiments from Dyrenforth or Dyrenforth all the way through, they weren't particularly useful or they weren't very well done or scientists went, it's not working. They'd spend millions and millions of dollars, different funding agencies would throw money at it and the results were generally inconclusive. And the problem is basically it's really difficult to design and conduct weather experiments. So you can't really prove cloud seeding has worked that well. So in the end, look, it didn't stop us. There's some stuff going on even in the early 2020s to combat American mega droughts, cloud seeding. And they reckon there's been some success with generating some snowfall and then that turns into meltwater. But the bottom line is, here's the bottom line. Rainmaking might work a bit, but it's hard to be sure. And even if it does work, it doesn't do anything about the reasons why these droughts exist and they continue.
If there's no rain in the atmosphere, you can't bring it down.
Yeah, if there's no moisture to suck, you can't suck the moisture.
I think everything I've heard is you can transform a cloud that is full of water into rain.
Yeah.
You can't make rain where there's no water.
No. So well done, Robert. Well done, rainmakers. And I don't know, do things that mean we don't need to make rain.
That was...